And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Selma Hare, published interdisciplinary social scientist, archaeologist, and educator who has been all through the course of her life a prolific, spontaneous astral traveler, and is now researching in the fields of anthroposophy, social engineering, New Age philosophy, cosmological theory, and general gnosis. Selma, welcome back. It's good to have you again.
Thank you for having me again. I'm really excited. A bit anxious, but really excited.
Well, Selma, for those who are meeting you for the first time, how have you had this ability to have spontaneous astral travel?
In 2012, actually in the transition between 2011 and 2012, something happened to the chemistry in my brain. And so I have to start by giving the disclaimer that I don't do drugs, and that the only time that I've ever done drugs ever was these mushrooms in the Netherlands. It's once, and 17 years into my starting to have these experiences. And it was that once, 17 years into my started having these experiences. So I don't do drugs. But something happened to my brain chemically. And I see things like this because I have a very scientific ethos. And for some reason, I started having these really, really lucid dreams and out-of-body experiences while I was living in Hong Kong, working as an international teacher back then, all on my own, as I usually do. And it started from nowhere. But before that, I remember that I did have a bit of a calling. I would be at work and I would start obsessing with this Native American gentleman that would come to me. And then I remembered that when I was a teenager, I used to draw this Native American man all the time, obsessively. I drew him I made maybe 10 different drawings of this man. And then it kept coming to me when I'm in Hong Kong for some reason. And one fine day, I fell asleep only to catapult into this other dimension. And that's when it all started. Couple of months into it, I returned to my own country, to Portugal in Europe. And as soon as I land, I'm having experiences every single night. But it's so trippy that, and the experiences feel so real, where I basically catapult out of my body, fall into what look like, now I understand to look like black holes. And I always land somewhere different, being someone else, doing something else, either in what looked like the past, the linear past of this planet, or the future, or wherever the hell this is. I don't know where this one even is. Is it a parallel lifetime? What is this? Sometimes I would just land up in other planets, speaking to individuals from other planets. But the one thing that really shook my ground is that I would go through entire lifetimes in one night. In one episode, I would go through an entire lifetime elsewhere. And then I would wake up and I am here as Selma, and I have to brush my teeth and go to work. And how do I make sense of this and what's happening to me? So I went to a doctor, to a psychologist. She told me, you're just lucid dreaming. And I'm like, whatever that means, because these are not dreams, lady. I'm a scientist, and I can tell you this felt more real than these experiences at times feel even more real than this reality. Okay, so that's when I started researching. I would have to write it all on my notes, otherwise I would lose it. This lasted for the full of 2012, the entirety of the year. A little bit, it bled into 2013 a little bit, and then I continued to have the experiences, but not as sporadically as every night. Gladly, because I needed to land. I needed to focus on my physical life here. So much so that I would leave work and I would get into a coffee shop and I would start writing, and I never stopped writing, as you can see. That's all I've been doing ever since. And so now I don't have as many experiences, but during those 2 years, it was brutal. And it was to the point where I felt like I was starting to dissociate from this reality, which is not good. And I feel like then it stopped because someone, possibly myself, another version of me, another aspect of me, I don't know, made the decision then, You can't have this as recurrently because you're going to disassociate from this reality. And right now you have to be here. We just wanted to give you this so you can see what's going on. I felt.
First of all, you said that you were traveling through black holes. Is it possible that these black holes are portals? And also, when near-death experiencers go through something like the tunnel, do you think that's the same thing that you're traveling through?
Potentially. I can't be sure whether these are the exact same things. I've heard of a few of these NDEers speak of tunnels, but it seems but I feel like I have seen that tunnel also. And this is not exactly the same thing. That tunnel, I feel, because we have, from what I've come to understand, we have different ways of accessing other dimensions. And we are all different. Sure, this is what I've come to understand, even listening to NDEers and other astral projectors. We are all different. We have different methods. I feel like our consciousness has different access keys to different places, different codes and access keys to different places, if this makes sense, even though there are patterns. And I have seen that tunnel. I was a very depressed teen. And so at 16, coming from this French lesson, I remember asking God, whatever, I was like, God, whatever it is, the universe, please take me out of this place. I don't care about this place, please. So basically I asked to die. And so I had an experience that same night where I did see a tunnel. I fell asleep to see a tunnel, and this man extended his hand to me like this. Like, I heard you. And when he extended his hand to me, but this man was on a suit. I'm like, this doesn't look like God. This doesn't look like Jesus. Dude, I'm not going with you anywhere. I don't know who you are. I didn't trust him. I'm like, no, this doesn't look like anything I should trust. He extended his hand to me with a smirk. I said no, and the tunnel closed. And I woke up. And that's when I said to myself, okay, I need to find another solution for my life and learn to live in this place, because there's more to the other side than Jesus and Archangel Michael and God. That was also the first time that I understood that. I need to leave the shadows, because this is not how I should go. When I go, I want to have a nice light, like reception waiting for me, not the other side. That was the first time that I became aware of the other side, by the way, which a lot of spirituality tries to gaslight people into believing that it doesn't exist. But it does. It's very real.
Now, didn't you say during some of your astral travels that you lived entire lifetimes in one night of a dream?
Oh, yeah.
Like from birth to death?
Oh, yeah. Well, so it wouldn't exactly start during birth, but in some really important episode of that lifetime, some really important moment of that lifetime, where all of a sudden I wake up and I'm a really tall blonde woman, all dressed in white. And it's not me, but it's me. And I'm on some future version of planet Earth. And I'm on a mission. I'm some type of scientist. I get on a capsule. I land up on this other part of planet Earth. It's the Osiris X39 episode that I narrate on my book. The name of the capsule is Osiris X39. It's that precise. I remember things like this. Osiris X39, it said on the capsule, and that capsule had been built to be similar or based off of the principle of the coffin of Osiris, the god in the Egyptian mythology, the one that had been devised by his brother Seth to entrap him and kill him, and then he rebirths in the underworld. Isis, his wife, goes crazy and looks for him, and finally manages to put his body together after Seth spreads the parts of his body all over the place. Anyway, so I'm also downloading this conversation while I'm having the experience that's how they came up with the idea for the Osiris X3S, this capsule, because the coffin where Osiris was buried, according to the myth, was the exact body of Osiris, which is how his brother Seth managed to entrap him. So the Osiris X3S has the exact measurement of the person piloting it. And it looks a bit like a coffin, only much bigger, this huge white capsule. And so I would get into it, and I would travel in time and space, and I would travel in time back to other places of planet Earth. So I was a bit of archaeologist, a time traveling archaeologist, which would make sense to me because I'm an archaeologist in this lifetime, because archaeology is what I studied for my bachelor's and master's. And so so that's one of the lifetimes. And I go through all of that. I land in Greece, or what is now Greece, but in the future planet Earth will not be Greece. And the people who live there will look very different as well. They look more like Middle Eastern people, but they didn't have the entrappings of what usually Middle Eastern people would wear now, like the headscarves and things, none of that anymore. So that kind of tells me also that these people coming from the Middle East and settling now in Southern Europe or Greece, they will stay. They will stay there, and they will be the new people that will inhabit these areas. All of this is very controversial to share. People who are more political will tell me that I have some sort of agenda in saying this. No, this is just what I remember. So, don't kill the messenger. I'm everything but political. I'm just a scientist, very detached, just speaking for what I remember from my experiences, literally. And so then afterwards, she returns to her own time. She has other experiences. In another lifetime, I leave planet Earth on a spaceship because us Earthlings in this future lifetime, this other future lifetime that I'm supposedly going to have here, I don't know, we've become so technologically advanced that we are spacefaring, but we are using this one other planet, I don't know which planet in this lifetime. While I'm having the experience, I know everything, but then when I wake up, sometimes I don't remember a lot. We basically shipped these psychopaths, what we now call psychopaths, from our planet, Earth, into another planet. That was the way that we found of getting rid of them. I mean, I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh because obviously, what could go wrong? What could go wrong? So we were very technologically advanced, but obviously morally and ethically, there were some things that we still had to tweak there, or will have to tweak there in this reality. I don't have years. I can't tell you when precisely this is going to happen. But also I'm given by the other side, because time on the other side is not linear. In 5D, which is where all of these dimensions come together, there's no linear time. So time, even in 4D time, is already experienced very differently from here. And also, above all, the future is not set on stone because of free will. So this is a reality that can be changed. Let's say that if we learn to be a bit more ethically now, a bit more ethical and moral, in the meantime, until we get there, we won't do this, right? But it's not just about ethics and morality. It's just that the experience really imploded in our faces. So at one point, this lifetime, the remembrance comes with me being given the assignment, but I was just an engineer. I wasn't one of these medical professionals. I was just going to be in the spaceship to fix it in case something went wrong. So I get into the spaceship with this crew that has a lot of medical professionals and other engineers and things of the sort. We land on this other planet because we received message that there are a few, because we had divided these people into groups, and we gave this medication to one group and we gave another medication to this other group. These were medications given to them from what very little I can understand from the medicine, because again, I was an engineer, I wasn't a doctor. But what I remember is that this medication was being given to them to suppress their psychopathic instincts, to suppress them. And we gave one type of medication to one group, one type of medication to the other group. So with one of the groups, the experience was going very well, but we received message that this other group needed to be monitored because a couple of incidents had happened. As soon as we get there, because of the time delay that took us to get there from when we got the message, I don't know which planet this was that we had colonized to get rid of people. Basically, we did with this planet what the British did with, the convicts that they sent to Australia in the 19th century. But they were very well housed. We even built this 90s American style suburbia. It was very odd, very odd. They lived like suburban people from the 20th century. It was a very odd experiment. When we got there, one of the groups had indeed started acting out, but the virus had kind of spread. Basically, the medication had stopped working with one of the groups, and they would immediately started slaughtering the other group and everybody around them. And so sure enough, cut to the next picture, I'm seeing myself and my crew. This is something that Steven Spielberg could not come up with, as good as he is. I'm seeing myself fleeing with the other group, fleeing from them. We didn't bring a lot of military with us. maybe I see 3 or 4 elements of military, and I'm now asking myself, why? Why didn't we bring security or more military with us? So we are running away from them. We run into this desert because we can't reach our spacecraft. They had done something to our spacecraft. They were especially angry at us because they understood what we had done to them. They had been taken from planet Earth, right? They had been taken to this other place against their will. A few of them against their will, and others had signed up for the project. It was just a very weird, convoluted thing. Anyway, they chase us around, but soon enough we're given information or coordinates to an old space vessel that was somewhere in the desert, stuck somewhere in the desert. The first space vessel with which we had made it to that planet many, many years ago. So it was quite old, and it became incumbent to us engineers to fix it, to get it to work again. Sure enough, we got it. Many of us in the group died in the desert. I remember all of this. The trip through the desert, it took forever. Days and days and days and days and days. And only 2 of us reached the space vessel, myself and another engineer, a male. And I couldn't make this up. We get into the space, I'm remembering all of this as one lifetime. We get into the space vessel, eventually we get it to work, but then we have no way of returning to Earth for some reason, for some technical issue that I don't remember. I feel like it's related to it not being close enough to this black hole that it had to be close to. Something like that. That's one thing I remember. We're not close enough, but not to Earth, to this black hole, something like that. And so what do we do? And eventually we are sent a message. We get a message in our system from another planet. And because we sent like something similar to an SOS. And we are allowed to land on that other planet where we meet this other human species. This other human species of giants. Of people that have the height of, like all of them seem to have the height of Michael Jordan or taller. And they're even more, way more technologically advanced than us. And you can see that emotional intelligence-wise, they are also smarter than us, and than we are going to be in this future that I seem to have dreamt of. And they were more ethical and moral than we were. They were more advanced. Period, more evolved as consciousness, more evolved type of consciousness. And they welcomed us incredibly well with a smile in their faces. They had this very angelical kind of vibration. They would dress like you and me. They actually would wear a lot of white. They would wear clothes like the one we do, but with a lot of white to it. They were all Caucasian. So they didn't have this mixed thing that we have in this planet of people from many ethnicities, right? That was a small planet with very few people, I wouldn't say underpopulated, just, well populated, not under, because they didn't have excess resources or anything like that. They were okay. There was this homeostatic balance to the planet where they had just enough resources for everybody. They didn't have a lot of population. They didn't have a lot of children. Very few of them actually had children, and they would just have them be enough to keep some people on the planet. So as a result, they had a lot of resources, a lot of space. They were more concerned with other things other than having children. So when you saw people having children, it would be one child. They were more concerned with science and technology and things connected to Earth, like agriculture. They were very into that. And with having a very homeostatic relationship with the environment and with the planet, living off the planet in a way which was truly economic and homeostatic, in balance with the planet. So there was a lot of space. And I remember that they gave us a house with a huge front yard and backyard so that we could plant our own vegetable garden. Everybody had their own vegetable garden. And then they had that mixture of being very connected to the earth and being highly technological as well. And so as engineers that we started just working with them, learning from them and working with them. And there's a lot more to that. This individual and I, my colleague and I, eventually we had a child together, but we weren't lovers. It was not like that. It was just we were the only earthlings on the planet. And we decided we were going to have a project. We were engineers, so we saw everything as a project. Okay, for our next project, we could have a child. So we planned for a girl. If we planned it, I did not carry that girl. I don't see myself doing that. I remember this incubator, this external incubator carried the baby for me and grew the baby for me. I just gave my material, he gave his material. It was very much like that. And I then see her go to a next shot, and I see us teaching her to plant on our vegetable garden. I remember very specifically that we gave her a patch. That would be her responsibility. She looked like she was 7, and she's planting tomatoes. And we're teaching her, and that's that. And we stay there for the rest of our lives. They absolutely loved us. I remember that they knew exactly who we were and where we came from, almost like they had been watching us to a degree. Oh, yes, we know. From birth, this and that, right, okay. And I remember us communicating more through telepathy than vocal. It was basically telepathy. We communicated through telepathy, and then eventually I feel like we picked up on whatever they called language. Physically, they were very much like us. They were us, only ridiculously tall, and with this really light vibration, and very technologically and scientifically geared, and very geared towards having a healthy relationship with their planet. They really liked it.
Some people believe that all of our lives, future, present, and past, are happening at the same time. Do you think that's what was going on for you, or were you also visiting other lives in other dimensions?
The $1 million question. I've asked that to myself for years, and this is the conclusion that I've reached. In 3D, where we currently are, 3D, yes, it's linear, past, present, and future. In 5D, no. In 5D, it's all happening at the same time, all the time. In 5D is basically like your computer desktop, where you have your files. So you get to 5D, well, especially after we cross over, right? After our consciousness drops our body, we get to 5D, to whatever astral city we go to live, what people here call heaven, if we're lucky enough not to end up in the Umbra because we'd be naughty, right? We go there, and we are given access to all of our lifetimes. Actually, I lied. When we go to these astral cities, you still have some type of linearity, because they are in the upper layer of 4D, from what I've come to understand. So you still have some kind of linearity, past, present, and future, even though time there, this linearity there runs differently. So what is 50 years here could be whatever else there, right? But not 50 years. Now, when you enter 5D, it's like your desktop screen. And these astral cities in 4D, they have a way of accessing 5D exactly like that. So you have your files, and I say, let me take a pic at what I was doing in 1947. Where was I? I was in Earth's 1947. Or now I want to jump into a future lifetime. So I click on the file that says future lifetime. I open the file and I see a lot of documents. Oh, I have 3 on planet Earth. Or let me see, did I have a lifetime in medieval Earth? Medieval, okay, I had 1, I see, different files. So another way that you can see it other than files on a desktop is also an onion. An onion is layered, right? So you can see several layers being several dimensions where you have several differences. So they are all happening at the same time in the onion, right? All the onion peels, they exist at the same time. But the computer desktop analogy for me is the best one. You can literally, it's all there. It's all stored in this hardware in 5D. And so it's all, in a way, it's all already happened. But the other interesting thing is that the file that contains your future lifetimes keeps changing, because the future is not set on stone. And whatever you do here in 2024 on planet Earth will determine what that will look like. And so if I make some different type of decision for myself right now, that can change what that little folder inside the future lifetime file will contain. It may change it slightly. And that's happened to me. I've seen that happening to me, where I made the decision in this lifetime. I made a decision in this lifetime, and that affected what this future lifetime that I'm going to have apparently in Hong Kong, I have this connection to Hong Kong, is going to look like. There's a particular individual that I was going to meet there in this future lifetime that I won't anymore, because I've decided to cut the cord with people like that. And I've forgiven and I've let go. A bully from the past. So I wouldn't have to be bullied by him there anymore in order to learn any type of lesson, in order to learn self-preservation, self-respect, and self-love, for instance, you see? But it's all happening in 5D at the same time, whereas here it's not. So what I say in my book is that the really trippy thing is that it's both. In places where you have linearity, that's how it's organized. In places where you don't have chronological linearity, that's how it's organized. Everything at the same time, the folders on the desktop.
Since the last time you were with me, have you had any new astral projections? And if so, what new insights and new things have you seen?
One of the lifetimes that I described here, my lifetime in Hong Kong, there was something that I didn't disclose. I censored myself a little bit with that one because I was fearful of disclosing a couple of the things. I didn't want to cause any type of panic among your viewers. And it's not to panic, because I don't panic. I don't care. I hold no fear. I'm human. I came into this experience knowing what it is like. And to me, it's exciting. But to a lot of people, it instills fear. To me, it's a part of the experience because on the other side, I have seen it all 1,000 times and again. So what I've seen in this lifetime that I seem to be having in Hong Kong is that something had happened to the world. And I think that I told you that part. I told you that I shared that much. There was pollution, but what I didn't share is that when I dug into it, because I asked for another astral projection experience where I could understand why the world looked the way it looked. It just looked somber, polluted. Hong Kong was an international hub. It wasn't China. So that tells me that Hong Kong will rid itself of the Communist Party of mainland China. That's going to happen. I'm not too sure why, but I think that it's because of these massive times of conflict that we are going to have, where everybody's going to take sides, and a few countries will help a few countries, and then a few other countries will help a few other countries. Some people will say that's a third world war. I say that it's going to be a lot of conflict. I'm not sure of the chronology, but I feel like if it's the third world war, it's going to be a modern version of it, obviously. So it's not going to be like the Second World War. But there's going to be a lot of political strategizing and people taking sides as well. China and the West will clash, like Russia and the West are clashing now. China will clash with what we call now the United States of America. The next thing that I saw when I'm asking for the information, when I catapulted into space and I'm giving the information as a movie, and as I'm giving the information as a movie, I hear these women talking to me and they look like, this sounds so crazy. I can't even believe myself as I say these things. They are in a control room of some sort, of some spaceship. They seem to be in a control room of some space vessel. And I listen to them speaking to me in some language, but it's not English, it's some future variation of English. It's English, but it's not. I feel like it's English with a Scandinavian thing to it. And a lot of the words are just completely different. And I remember telling them, can you please slow down? Like, please, can you slow down the images and also whatever it is that you're speaking? Mentally, I'm telling them, can you slow down? Because they're like, and then this will happen. And I'm like, oh my God, they forget that I cannot understand what they're saying. But I'm seeing, so I'm focusing mostly on the images because sometimes I can hardly understand what they say. And I see, as a result of this clash, the US eventually dissolving as well. I see what looks like a civil war. I feel like the conditions that will be put in place for that civil war eventually to happen, this in the next 300 and something years, over the course of the next 350 odd years, because they are giving me the number 35 something or 34 something years. It's going to kind of start now after this election. I feel what I'm saying is after this election, there will be some events that will take place that people won't notice that eventually will lead to a civil war, but this is where it's going to start. Things that won't be clear or evident to everybody that, oh, this will lead us to a civil war. No, but in the next like 100 years or something, there will be a chain effect, and there are things that are going to start now, a ripple effect of things that are going to happen after this election. Because as you know, the US is polarized, it's completely divided, and it's for a reason. We're talking about two different collectives in the US, two different types of soul, and they need to engage in different kinds of experiences. They don't want to be together. People don't understand that on what I tapped into that experience, because when you are having these types of experiences, you feel more than what you see sometimes. I saw the images, but you download a lot also through emotions. And it's like I felt myself in the South, which would not be me. I would be in the North, I have to tell you, simply because of landscape reasons. I love Vermont. So that's where I would be if I were American. But, for instance, in this experience, I saw myself in the South because I felt like it was mainly the South that did not want to have anything to do with the North. And it's like, can you give us some space, please? We are different. Can we agree that we are different and stop fighting? There'll be an exhaustion coming to the US very soon, where people will be exhausted of the politics, will resort to taking arms, and then after taking arms, they will get exhausted of taking arms, and so an agreement will be reached where the country needs to break apart into two. I didn't see the names, but it could be something similar to the northern states of America and the southern states of America. They will eventually just agree, we're too different to be together for now. And it's just like, and can we just stop being mean to each other? There'll be an exhaustion like that. So after the shadows, there will be a time of light where people will just agree, we have too many differences. We want to go our separate ways. And I can almost feel myself saying, you know what, might as well. When I have this experience, I remember thinking, might as well, enough is enough of the density and the war and the hatred. Can we just agree that we are a different kind of, and let's maybe separate it like this. What do you think? Fine. I see people agreeing in a room, signing, and eventually even there being room for cooperation and for healing. It all comes from the clash of titans between the West and the East. And I feel like it's in the midst of all of that Hong Kong will also become like an international hub. I saw a lot of North American scientists in Hong Kong. I was in that lifetime, I'm going to be a medical student from Russia. Weirdly enough, I seemed like I was this mixed race, and this is really out there, mixed race Russian woman. I'd been born in what now is Russia, and I'd gone to medical school in Hong Kong. And my supervisor, I was a medical student. My supervisor was an old American man, and I was surrounded by Western people all over the place. It was a mix between Eastern and Western people, but more Western people. And I understood then that Hong Kong will also turn into a scientific and technological hub more than what it is now, which is an economic and business mecca. That will be gone because the economy will collapse. The old socioeconomic paradigm will collapse. And after what I see as a lot of conflict, a lot of wars, another thing that I saw also was flooding all over the place. There's a lot of flooding. And I feel like that may really be related with what we know, climate change and the ice caps melting. That's very real. Because, okay, you'd say, but Selma, you are geography, you worked as a geography teacher, you are a scientist, you know that that's real. Yes, but one thing is for us to read it in the books and study the science. The other thing is for you to see it. I remember thinking, no, this is real, this is real. That's going to be very real, that's going to happen. And the levels will rise and a couple of countries are going to disappear. And we are going to have to, we are going to readjust and rebuild, and we are going to go on and readjust. And I saw also a couple of atomic incidents for some reason, but that I think I've shared with you. I saw kind of people moving from what looked like Eastern Europe and Northern Europe to South America. South America will be the trip, the absolute trip, will become very popular among Europeans for a while. I see a movement, an immigration of Europeans to South America in the future. I see South America becoming better with less corruption, less crime, because I feel like the disasters that are going to happen are going to finally shake us up to the degree that we have to be shaken up to understand that whatever it is that we've been doing is not working and we need to build anew, and we need to focus more on science and technology than on business and currency and whatever, market economy hasn't exactly been making us very happy. I don't know, in my humble opinion, but so it felt to me like after plenty of tragedy and suffering, because that's unfortunately how we learn in 3D, we will reach over the course of these 300 and something years. I felt like there was a process of where in the middle it was really dark, and then eventually it's like release. We release the darkness and we start stepping into, wait a minute, we've been through the worst and we are still here. This feels like an opportunity. The ones of us will be left, and we will gear our focus to science and technology, it seemed. And so even though Hong Kong was still heavily polluted, and I feel like it was polluted because of some atomic incident, we were happy. I was very happy doing my medical thing. I had no money problems because there was no money. There was no currency. I may have shared this here. We had these chips, they look like credits, where, if you deduct 3 credits, you get a meal at the canteen. Something, I remember literally doing that, swiping this chip and seeing the number 3 and getting my meal from this lady, this frozen meal from this lady. And I remember the meal. It was steamed rice with mussels dipped in soy sauce, like soy mussels, like you have now in Hong Kong. It was the same thing. But I remember the lady at the canteen, a lady that looked American, like with an American accent, a lady with an American accent telling me, oh, back in the day, this used to be a lot better. Now it's all frozen. She's telling me, and I'm like, I don't know it otherwise. I love it as it is. I didn't know it otherwise. I feel like there was a lot of frozen food around. Someone else may be able to explain that better, but obviously I feel like it was related with the changes and catastrophes that had happened before. But for me, it was delicious. But I remember this older lady saying, oh, back in the day, this used to be much better. So I remember things with that much detail from these experiences. This told me that about the world. So when I said that I have other insights, this is it. Because this I kept from you and from your audience the last time. I have to be very honest in that the situation in the US is so explosive that I didn't want for it to be too controversial or, for people to shoot the messenger also. Let's put it that way.
Did you see anything involving ETs in the future?
That's not in the future. In the future, my experiences with planet Earth are more connected to us going to other planets and doing things there, as per what I told you. I didn't see us talking to ETs. But in my astral projection experiences, I talk to aliens, or what we here call aliens, people from other planets all the time. And this sounds insane to me as I say it, but that happens to me a lot. From other dimensions, from other planets. I feel like the people that I speak to, they are very close to us. They are closer to us than we think. This one lady told me that she was, at one point, I have an experience where I got out of my bed, fell asleep, got out of my bed, and all of a sudden I saw my bedroom as a grid. I see grids all over the place, and I remember thinking, what is happening? It's like my bedroom was dissolving in front of me, and all of a sudden I see grids. And the only thing that was left was the door. Someone knocked. I opened the door, and I see this really tall blonde lady with what looked like her partner. Really tall blonde man as well, with really marble-like skin. They were so white. I'd never seen that type of skin texture on this planet. It's like marble. Like Anne Rice's vampires, when she says that their skin looked like it was made of marble, for the ones of you out there who've read Anne Rice's vampire books, that's exactly how these people were, like marble. But on the contrary to Anne Rice's vampires, they had this really light, pleasant, amazing energy. And I look at them and I'm like, where are you from? And she says something, actually she says she's from Saturn, that they are from Saturn. And I told them, hey, but here on Earth, our perspective is that there's no life on Saturn. It's not a Goldilocks planet. I'm telling her all of this, and she's looking at me with this smile and letting me yap, because I yap a lot with them instead of just listening, which is what I should do. Because here on Earth, this and that, the smarty pants in the classroom, this and that, blah 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 blah. And she was like, and she lets me reach my own conclusion as I continue to yap, unless you come from another dimension of Saturn. This just came out of me. I blurted it out. I don't know why. I feel like on the other side, I'm smarter. And then I wake up and I understand, how did that come out of me? I'm not that smart on this side. I would have never thought of it on this side. So I tell her, unless you come from another dimension in Saturn. And she nods. She nods and winks, like, you got it. So this is another thing that happens to me as well. So now I'm getting told by what looks like the alien species that these planets in our own solar system have other dimensions where there is actual life in other dimensions. I don't know. I can't give you evidence for that. All I have is my experiences, like Emanuel Swedenborg has had his. We share them. It cost Emanuel Swedenborg, the Swedish physicist, it cost him his career in physics and in astronomy. To me, it won't cost me anything because I don't have a career in physics or astronomy. Swedenborg also didn't care because he was rich. I don't care because I've got nothing. When you've got nothing to worry about. So other people have been talking about these things also. That's what I wanted to say, what I wanted to add.
Do you think we should bridge science and esoteric New Age philosophy? And if so, why?
That's what I'm here to do. Because look, when I wrote in my book a chapter called The Science Behind the Window series, which is back when I was having these experiences where I would get out of my bed and instead of getting into a black hole, falling into a black hole, I would open my window and fly off. I also had a couple of weeks where this was happening to me. Like, what is happening? Why do I open my window and fly off? Not before seeing a few dead people around me, by the way. A few souls hanging around. This one time, this guy would just crash his bike and he was there talking to me and I'm like, you're dead. So maybe you should, look for the light, whatever it is that you have to do now. I learned to cross over consciousness, people that get stuck on this side because of that as well. After crossing over a couple of people, sometimes I would open the window and I would fly off. And so that really stopped me on my tracks. And that's when I had to research the science. And then I started reading Paul Devereaux, who was this author from the 1970s who wrote a lot about hallucinogenics. And mind you, a person who doesn't do drugs, I know a lot about drugs, even though I don't do drugs, because I've read about drugs and I've read a lot of Paul Devereaux. And even when I was doing archaeology, we read a lot of what happens when shamans go on those trips after taking drugs, right? Because it started happening in the Paleolithic anyway, the grids and all that. So I realized, okay, according to the current science, our brains produce DMT. Now, at the end of this, you will understand why we have to bridge both, because there actually is no such a thing as esotericism. That's what I'm trying to say. It's all science. So I realized that whole theory that we only produce DMT, which is short for dimethyltryptamine, this really naturally occurring psychedelic compound, that theory that we only produce DMT when we are born and then when we die, that can't be real, because I feel like I'm producing DMT every time I go to bed or meditate a little more profoundly, because I catapult out of my body. What is that? If not me, if not my producing DMT? I don't do drugs, so I have to be the one producing it, right? And if DMT, because nowadays there's substantial evidence that DMT is a chemical that is not only found on plants, but also in the human brain. But again, the science until very recently would say that we only produce it when we are born and when we die, which is what explains near-death awareness, more commonly known as the near-death experiences, right? In 2012, I said, no, I feel like I'm producing it when I go to bed also, like almost every day. And sure enough, the science seems to have caught up with that. And so now the recent studies have already come to understand that we do produce DMT in other parts of our life as well. And I wish that my brain was getting monitored back then, back when I was having these experiences as profusely. So the new science already ascertains that we also produce DMT during rapid eye movement sleep, REM sleep, right? So I guess that the next question could then be, could it be that what happened then was that something also happened in the quantum that propitiated some type of DMT excursion in my brain, that all of a sudden my brain started producing way more DMT than before. And if you speak to all of those New Agers and, you know, people who study the Mayan calendar and astrologers and whatnot, I never know whether the name is astrologer or astrologist. So sorry to the people who practice this wonderful art in advance. According to them, yes, something happened in the quantum that caused a shift, a vibrational shift back then, which may have enabled for some of us to have these, in my theory, explosions of DMT all of a sudden and get access to things that they weren't having access to before. Mainstream science, forget about it. They could care less. They don't even approach it because they are too scared of getting called cuckoo, right? Of getting defunded and called crazy. But me, all I have to say is that my experiences with my out-of-body experiences cooperated. So the way I see it, there may be, scientifically speaking, that may be this, what happens in our physical bodies could be that the chemistry and the quantum coming together to enable the consciousness leaving your body and having these experiences. I feel like scientifically that could be what propitiates out-of-body experiences, this homeostatic balance between quantum and chemistry enabling the experience. So obviously what we should have is physicists and people who study chemistry coming together to study the phenomena, as they kind of already do near-death experiences. But what kind of makes me angry at times, I'm not angry, a bit frustrated, is that people only study near-death experiences from the point of view of neurobiology. And where's the quantum physics to it? Where's the chemistry to it? You have to come together, all of you mainstream scientists from different areas and walks of life. You have to come together in a multidisciplinary effort to gather all the information that each of you has to try and make sense of these experiences properly, because what's happening right now is that all of these scientists are working separately instead of coming together, and all of them resent each other very much. Oh, because us physicists are much better than you biologists. Oh, and never mind the social science people, they are not smart like us. So that's what you have right now, right? When all of us should be coming together, social scientists and hard sciences and scientists and everybody in the hard sciences also coming together with neurobiologists, with this and that, physicists, to study out-of-body experiences, because near-death experiences are only one type of out-of-body experience, okay? And I don't have to die to have these experiences. So you tell me what's happening to me. Scan my brain, do something, start doing your job. And don't just study that which you get grants for. I've been an independent researcher for 10 years. I've been publishing and being a speaker in conferences all on my own, paying for my own hotels and meals and flights and things. If you want to research, you can, and you don't have to be linked to any institution or get grants to research. You can do it on your own, do it on the side. Your university, your institution doesn't have to know, right? At least for now, I don't know, just start doing it. Study these things. This is my appeal to the scientific community. And because I will repeat here to you and to everyone that is listening, Jeff, there is no thing as the esoteric. There's only the science that we do not know. There's only that we do not yet know. There's only the science that we don't yet practice. That which I call the science of the future, which is unbiased, right? Because all of this that I've just told you is pretty self-deductive. Look at me, a simple educator and social scientist going about it. It means that literally every single person can. Every person that works at Walmart can go to a library and do what I just did, right? Of course, everybody's now distracted by the elections, and if it's not the elections, it's Cardi B or Beyonce or whatever, but we can all do what I have just done. This is my entire point. And this is what can happen when we put our minds to using actual objective rationality and unbiased critical thinking. And because there is only one kind of critical thinking, and that is unbiased critical thinking to begin with. And there's too much biased critical thinking in science right now. But once science rids itself of the hold that market economy, that this current socioeconomic paradigm has on it, that has made it, in having made it so dogmatic, exactly so as to keep everybody ignorant in the consumer type of frame of mind only, once science rids itself of all of these shackles, that's when it will be able to step into actually being science. And I'm sorry for sounding so passionate about this, but I really do. I really do. As you can see, I guess.
All right, Selma, your book is called Images of Cosmology and the Gaian Project. What is the main takeaway somebody should get from reading your book?
First, that there is no such a thing as esotericism, like I said, that everything is science, is only but the science that we haven't yet studied. For instance, black holes have entropy. No one knows this, which makes it very possible that, that masses can fall through black holes into the two coalesced black holes into its event horizon and fall on the other side intact through this other event horizon intact, right? So black holes have been known to have entropy since 1970, thanks to this physicist called Jacob Bekenstein, and Hawking himself in the meantime has validated his theory. Yes, black holes have entropy. We don't know everything about black holes, so it's very possible that mass can indeed fall through black holes without being spaghettified and get out on the other side in other dimensions in space and time, bending space and time. The bending of space and time curvature is also science, Einstein with relativity, right? So everything that I'm talking here, people say, oh, Selma, but you talk about aliens. Are you going to talk about fairies as well? No, everything that I'm talking about is science. And if we want to make this the project that this planet is, the Gaian project, work, we need to be more rational about things, okay? And stop thinking with emotions, with our hearts, and with our biases only, because everything that I'm talking about is science. Even the other day, weeks ago, I went to this talk by the physicist and futurist Michio Kaku in Bucharest, he was telling us, and the entire public gasped, even I gasped, and I've seen a lot through my experiences. He was talking to us, and I can't wait for this talk to be on YouTube. He was talking to us about how some scientists have already managed to take pictures of our dreams, or of what we call dreams anyway. The public gasped. We clutched our pearls. Stop, get out of here. And then you know what he did? He went ahead and showed us the pictures. I could literally hear people gasping, and I am clutching my pearls. Stop, Michio Kaku. No, this cannot be. We were seeing the photos, obviously, and then he said, obviously the photos are still very rudimentary. I'm like, that's not rudimentary to me. I'm seeing the shape of a woman typing on some computer right there. Someone was dreaming that. So this is where we are already. This is the importance of science and technology. If we can already take pictures of our dreams, we will be able to one day take pictures of these astral projection, these out-of-body experiences and near-death experiences that people are having. If we want to make this planet work and keep its homeostatic balance, instead of throwing it out of balance as we've been doing with the advancement of climate change in the last couple of decades, yada, 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 if we want to make this project work for us, we need to get it together, and we need to start thinking with our heads and put our biases aside and put everything that is waste aside. Current socioeconomic paradigm, waste, remove it, make space for what is real. Science and technology, and living in balance with the planet, and consciousness, so expanding our consciousness awareness, because we are better than this. And these next 3 centuries, from what I've seen, are kind of going to slap that into our faces. Oi, you are better than this. Look. But we will need to reach rock bottom. A lot of us will need, not so many of us. Most of the people of this planet are good. But a lot of us, a lot of the souls of this planet will have to reach rock bottom before they understand that, because there's a lot of stubbornness to being human as well. I find that interesting and exciting. I like to tackle, human stubbornness. It's time for us to take on the challenge, for people like us, Jeff, and many of your viewers to take on the challenge. And this is the earthly challenge, and it's exciting. Whenever really bad things are happening, the current wars, listen, it's okay if we have a good cry once in a while. The other day I had a really good cry regarding Russia and Ukraine, right? It just came out of me, out of nowhere. I was crying like a child for a moment because of also my connection to Russia and to Ukraine, past life connection and future life connection. I was crying like a child. And also because I just downloaded this episode that happened during the war. That is happening during this war, like this girl that... Anyway, I download things that I don't want to share. we are going to have moments like this, but then I felt great. Then I cleansed my soul and I said, let's go. This is the place. This is the challenge. It's all a part of the Gaian project. So let's go, which is very, being that I'm speaking to an American, which is very American. Let's go.
Selma, after watching this podcast, people may want to reach out to you and ask you questions. Are you open to that?
Oh, definitely. Yes. I mean, you have my email. People can also reach me on Facebook, Selma Hare. My full name, as I told you, is Selma Marina Fragoso Teixeira de Faria. I have a very long Portuguese name, but I've adopted a pseudonym to write about these things because just to make it easier for people. They can find me on Facebook and Instagram under Selma Hare Author. And people can also, I do have my YouTube channel as well. I don't post in it as much as I used to. I've been quite busy because I'm back to writing a lot. But if people want to hear more about this type of content, they can also search for my YouTube channel, Selma Hare.
Would you like to share your email address with everyone? Oh,
sure. It's Selma Hare. selmahare.gmail.com, selmahareauthor.gmail.com. I forgot. I'm terrible at self-marketing. selmahareauthor at gmail.com. That's it.
Do you have anything else that you're working on that you want people to know about?
I have many projects at hand. Even today, I had a bit of a crisis because I remember thinking, which one do I continue now? Which one do I put aside now? I have the projects related to environmental integration because a while ago I published an article, a paper called about environmental integration. I'm all about that. And so I have to develop that into a book, right? I published this next to the Sophia Center at the University of Trinity St. David, and then I gave a talk about this as well. So that's something that I have to finish. It's more writing and research. That's what I do. Nothing too exciting. I'm a bit of a bore like that, but that's what I do. That's what I have to give. We give what we have to give, right? And so that's one. And I'm also writing a study about mobility patterns of women in Roman Britannia and Iberia. Right? Hispania, Roman Britannia and Hispania, to show people that women have always been travelers. Just to give a shout out to the lady travelers out there. Women have always been scientists, have also been researchers, and have also been travelers. We haven't always been trad wives. Women have been traveling on their own for a very long time. I feel like it's something that is really needed right now because of this backwards resurgence and decivilization that we are currently going through. So those are two of the projects, but there's more. There's plenty to write. I want to write also about a few people in Europe. I have a book in the forge also about mixed European people of prominence in Europe over the centuries. Also to tell people that African descent people haven't all been slaves in Europe historically. We've done pretty awesome things over history as well. And there are a few very famous African descent Europeans that have done really incredible things. That's it. There's more, but that's it for now.
Selma, before we wrap it up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
Let's tackle it. Let's go. I am a naturally excited person because I signed up for this experience. Most of you will have signed up for this experience too, and for a reason. We want to make a change. We want to make a contribution. Some of you won't have. Some of you will have come from the shadows, but that's fine also. You can shift anytime you want. This is the crazy thing, isn't it? You can shift into the light and take on the opportunity to do wonderful, great things whenever you want. In places, this is one thing that I've managed to gather from my experiences, even in other planets in the cosmos, other dimensions, which are much denser than this one, by the way, if you can imagine, much denser than this one, is that in places where there is a lot of darkness, a lot of shadow, there is also a lot of light. And the light now is speaking louder. So over these next couple of centuries, whereas you're going to see a lot of shadow, just the shadows of this planet purging and taking form in all of these wars and political strife and whatever, you are also going to see in tandem gorgeous, wonderful things happening. The light, like people who are of light and rationality and enlightenment doing wonderful things at the individual, community, and collective level. Another thing that I forgot to tell you is that I also saw in North America, especially, also down there, I feel like Australia, New Zealand, I saw a lot of this, I saw this movement of this housing movement popping up, where people are fighting the government to be able to have like affordable housing. But I saw housing that is very connected to sustainability. That's going to take off also in the next few decades. From what I've seen, I saw these tiny little houses popping up like mushrooms. I think you already see that, but I saw more of it. A lot of the youth coming up with these really interesting projects for the future. I talk to my students a lot about that. Sustainability, think of ideas, because you are the ones who are going to have to solve this mess. I usually tell them, hey, I'm not going to live too long. You are the ones who are going to solve this mess, so you better start getting ideas. And they take it very seriously. So these new generations, they are also quite different. It may seem to us like they are distracted by the gaming and whatever, but there are a lot of students who are there's a lot of youth who are now teens who are seeing the world differently, and they will make a difference. And what I say is, let's tackle it. Let's go. Get your energy bars, whatever it is that you have to do, hit the gym to have more energy, because there's work to do. This is a place where we have come here to do work. There's work to do, and that to me is exciting, and I feel like it should be exciting to you too.
Selma, thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share. Really, 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 Jeff. It's always my pleasure, as you know.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.